activated.
Sebastian, just to let you, tomorrow morning, I personally won't be able to join. I'd love to hear everyone, but it's the ENQA board tomorrow, so
sure, no worries. Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, I was
told
by Maria.
This would be much
actually
more exciting than the ENQA board, as Akim will tell you.
Well, I wouldn't know. I just believe you. All right, so it's 3 p.m. here now in Indonesia, and obviously because we are from the German Academic Exchange Service, so I suppose we start on time, if you don't mind the joke. And yes, let me introduce myself to all of you. So my name is Sebastian, however you would like to call me. I am with the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service Regional Office for Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. But obviously today we're here fully focused on Indonesia. I am your moderator for today. Very glad that I can do this. I'm really happy that we have such a good turnout. I'm very glad to see you all. So I don't know how many countries we have today in the call. From different European agencies, and yes, well, a chair and a host shouldn't talk too much, so I would probably just begin now and call for our opening speakers, which in good tradition, obviously the host country will start. So Professor Aris Junaidi from the Ministry of Education and Cultures, Directorate General on Higher Education, would go ahead with his opening remarks and a brief presentation on the new or fairly new policies in Indonesia around accreditation, quality assurance, and especially international accreditation. And after that, my director, Mr. Thomas Zettler, the regional director for DAAD, would go with opening remarks, and then we would go into our 2 keynotes for the day, followed by, of course, the key component, the core, your presentations, the agencies, and most importantly, Q&A interactions, if there are questions from the side of our participating higher education institutions in Indonesia. So yeah, without any further ado, allow me to hand over to my dear colleague from the Ministry of Education and Culture, Professor Aris Junaidi. Pak Aris, please, your remarks.
Thank you so much, Pak Sebastian. So first, I would like to thanks for this cooperation to running the workshop on accreditation from ENQA registered agency in Europe, and also Pak Thomas Zettler, the director of DAAD, and also our distinguished honorable keynotes, Dr. Achim Hobach, the quality assurance expert from Austria, and also Prof. Chan Basarudin as a director of the executive board from the National of Accreditation Agency, or BANVT, and of course to all our speakers from the 5 accreditation from ENQA registered agency in Europe. So thank you for joining with us today. And also all the participants from the PTN and PTN BH, and also all the participants university here in Indonesia that already joined. So thank you so much for this workshop today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. good afternoon to everyone, and also good morning to in Europe. So please allow me to share a few slides, only a few slides, probably only for 10 minutes. I would like to describe, to overview about our new policy and the international accreditation at the Ministry of Education and Culture. So here we are. I would like to talk in about 10 minutes. This is the international accreditation policy of Indonesian higher education institution. I would like to start with the new policy, transformation of the readiness of the higher education. We call independent campus and independent learning. This is the new policy in National Ministry of Education and Culture. The first one I would like to introduce that for the higher education institution in Indonesia and also that already accredited and excellent, they can opening the new study program by themselves. Yeah, we thought what we calling apply with our system, but they directly can open the new study program. This is the first policy, with the first new policy, with also with provided by the Ministerial Decree number 7, 2020. The second policy here is about the higher education institution accreditation system. I would like to talk a bit after this, but the principle of this that the higher education, the university or the study program will be extended automatically after 5 years. I will explain later on. And also the third one is about legal entity in the state of university. We encouraging all the public university to become more independent. We call PTN BH. And also we provide the Ministerial Decree number 4, 2020, and also the Ministerial Decree number 6, 2020. The last new policy, this is about the right to study 3 semesters outside the core study program. So that means the student can choose whether they can go right to study 3 semesters outside the core study program. So actually, this is the 4 new policy about the independent campus and independent learning. And I would like to talk later on one by one. This is the Ministerial Decree, the Ministry of Education and Culture number 5, 2020. This is about the accreditation of the study program and the higher education institution. The article number 6 of the Ministerial Decree is about accreditation, the extension policy. So this is just explaining the accreditation validity period of the study program or higher education institution by BAN-PT. BAN-PT is the National of Accreditation Agency, and the director of executive board is Prof. Chan. Yeah, this is explaining that the accreditation validity period of the study program or higher education institution by BAN-PT is 5 years. But higher education no longer need to apply for accreditation extension. The accreditation extension is carried out after the evaluation of the BAN-PT using the data and information obtained from the Ministry of and a public report, and the accreditation is automatically extended, yeah, for the next 5 years, as long as the study program on the higher education institution maintain the quality. So once they maintain the quality, yeah, we can assess by the what we call is the data, the center data, pangkalan data in the ministry. When they maintain the quality, then the accreditation is automatically extended for another 5 years, except the study program would like to what we call it gain another grade. Yeah, for example, very good to be excellent, they have to what we call it to apply for the accreditation. If they are happy with the status currently, then they will be extended automatically. Yeah, this is the new policy of the accreditation. And also to explain more about this exception of this policy, when they decrease the number of applicants or a Christian and all the graduate in existing study program for 5 consecutive years based on the data from PDDT on the center data that we have. And since our policy is the accreditation is extended automatically, then we also, our ministry policy now also the publishing the whitelist. So this is the ministerial decree number 83, 2020. This is the international accreditation agency recognized by the Ministry of Education and Culture. For example, the international on the list is mentioning the international approval. For example, they are approved by the Sydney Accord, Dublin Accord, Seoul Accord, Canberra Accord, and others. Washington Accord, yeah. World Federation for Medical Education, for example, ENQA, yeah. So all under the international approval will be accepted for the accreditation agency that we recognize by us, by the Ministry of Education and Culture. Also known as international agreement. For example, Higher Education Evaluation and Accreditation Council, for example, the accreditation of MBA or AMBA, for example, and then the Council of the Accreditation for Educator Preparation, for example. So on the list here, showing that this agency can doing the accreditation in Indonesia for our study program. This is the whitelist that we recently published. ENQA is number 1, yeah, in the list on the international approval. And also, our new policy here, the Ministerial Decree of Education and Culture number 754/2020. This is also mentioning the main performance indicator of the public higher education institution in Indonesia, and currently 122. So this ministerial decree state that the public university must achieve the 8 performance indicator. One of them, number 8, is international accreditation. So that means our new policy here encouraging all the public university must achieve the 8 performance indicator. One of them, for example, international accreditation here. So asking how many percentage of the study program that have accreditation or international certification recognized by government, recognized by our Ministry of Education and Culture. So that means now it's timely that all the public university must doing the international accreditation for their study program, because this is one of the main performance indicator here. So this is stated clearly in the Ministerial Decree of the Education and Culture. And other international accreditation body here, for example, the British Accreditation Council and the Southern Association of School Commission and College and so on, ABET, and also EEGSB, the Association of to Advanced Collegiate School of the Business, and also Accreditation Council of the Pharmacy Education. So this is all showing to us that our new policy is encouraging all the study program in Indonesia in higher education institution to what we call it, to achieve this performance indicator by accreditation, international accreditation. This is our new policy. So how to supporting the study program to get the international accreditation? We are in the Director General of Higher Education support the international accreditation facilitation grant. So we also give a grant for this. And also just recently on the 3rd of November, just recently, our Ministry of Education and Culture also mentioning that all the public university who achieve the main 8 main indicator will get the matching fund. And also at the same time, our ministry also launching the competitive fund. So both of the fund is actually to encouraging all the higher education institution in Indonesia in the study program to get the international accreditation. From my side, in the Director General of Higher Education, supporting the grant for the study program who are ready to get the international accreditation. So the objective of the grant is to facilitate the study program to get the international accreditation. And the grant itself is a maximum grant of 300 million rupiah for each study program given to the institution or study program that have passed the selection in the form of the proposal review by Director General of Learning and Directorate of Learning and Student Affairs team. So we have a team and to select it, the program and then give a grant. Each of them is about 300 million Indonesian rupiah. The requirement for this, the accreditation of the institution and study program, at least they got the accreditation at least very good by the National Accreditation Agency or BAN-PT. Yeah, and this is still valid. Yeah. So one, they got the B, at least the very good in accreditation by BAN-PT, they are valid to submit it the grant, yeah, to have the competition with this grant. The second one, the study program is ready to obtain international accreditation. Yeah, it's already ready, proven by visitation readiness. And the third one, the study program is in the process of obtaining the international accreditation as evident by self-evaluation document. So this is very short overview about our new policy and our grant and our new grant with the matching fund and the competitive fund. I think that's all that we can share today. So thank you so much, Pak Sebastian. The time is I give it back to you, and thanks for all the speaker for the 5 agency in Europe or ENQA registered agency from Kazakhstan, from Russia, from Germany, from UK, and also from Germany. Thank you so much, and have a good, fruitful discussion for today. Thank you. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Sebastian.
Thank you very much, Pak Aris. Very clear, very concise, as usual. I mean, obviously, I just want to highlight a few points. So this is really quite a change in Indonesian education policy to, let's say, not only allow for international accreditation, but also encourage it. One of the reasons why this whole workshop is being organized, so that Indonesian higher education institutions also have more, let's say, insight into what the ENQA is actually all about, and also what kind of agencies there are. Obviously, it's all on the web, but I mean, it's always good to talk to each other. So now, again, thank you very much, Pak Aris. If I now may call on my director, Mr. Thomas Zettler, to kindly provide his opening remarks on behalf of the DAAD, the German Academic Exchange Service. Thomas, I can see there's an issue with your video still.
Yeah.
I cannot see you yet.
Yeah, very sorry about this. I just have to
Okay, no worries. It's fine.
I'll try to mend it now. Yeah.
Back then, it was usually the microphone issues when we still had physical meetings.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's usually, I also realize that it's the camera that usually acts up.
Yeah, I don't know why. So maybe in order not to to lose too much time, I will just start without the camera then. Maybe, yeah. So sorry for this, but nevertheless, welcome all together. Thank you very much, Professor Aris Junaidi, especially from the ministry. Thank you very much, dear colleagues from ENQA, Pak Chan, Professor Chan Basaruddin from BAN-PT, dear colleagues from Europe, Dr. Achim Hoppach, dear colleagues from the agency. 11 agencies today are participating with presentations, yeah, and a lot of Indonesian universities. 50 have registered so far, but I think we have much more in the end, even as participants. Thank you very much for participating in this interesting seminar. I have to say, this is already the 5th seminar in one line with the Ministry of Education. We have on the topic of internationalization and also on accreditation. Yeah, we had such a series of seminars in October, and one topic was also accreditation and especially digitalization in the field of accreditation. And maybe this is one of the reasons we wanted to continue these seminars. But mostly, as Professor Aris Junaidi already mentioned, we have this wonderful initiative from the Indonesian side. That means fostering international accreditation. That's a very, very important step forward, I would say. I have to say, in the framework of the program Independent Campus and Independent Learning, which was mentioned by Professor Aris Junaidi, many initiatives have been started. Also, for example, fostering double degree programs is one. International guest lecturerships have been enforced, and international accreditation, of course, is one big and important step. I think I don't have to explain very much to you who are all working in this field of international cooperation. Just a few words. We all see, we all understand what the contribution of international cooperation is in the field, not only of study programs, but also in the field of international accreditation. That means the quality of our study programs can be risen much higher by such international cooperation, by international accreditation and so on. And that's valid not only for Indonesia, but also for Germany, for all countries in the world. That means we have to set our benchmarks. We have to look what other partners in the world do, and we have to learn from each other in both directions, by the way. So I also have to mention that in the past, most of our activities, joint activities with the ministry, with ENQA also, they were in two programs, the DS workshops. These were workshops for the university management, for example, on quality assurance, and also in the framework of our EU share program, where we try to contribute to the ASEAN higher education area, maybe out of our Bologna process in Europe. We like to contribute to this. Yeah, today I think we have the start of a very important moment. This gives us the possibility, this seminar gives us the possibility to meet universities from Indonesia on the one side, agencies from Europe on the other side, and to exchange information, to learn from each other, and to learn, for example, how accreditation in Indonesia works. Professor Chan Basaruddin will tell us about this, and to learn about the system of quality assurance in the European higher education area. Dr. Achim Hoppach will tell us about this, and later on we will have the chance to listen to the presentations of the different agencies and to hear what their specific fields of activities are, what they are working on, and this will make it much easier for the Indonesian universities also to choose, to get better understanding which of these agencies could be of interest to them. Yeah. So this is a big networking event, so to say. I don't want to make it too long. Thank you very much to all participants. I would like to pass the floor to you. Thank you very much for participating. All the best and much success in this event.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Indeed, I would now probably start with our keynotes. So first of all, maybe allow me a bit to explain on the rationale why we have chosen these two keynotes. So first of all, obviously, and Thomas mentioned it, it's a two-way street. So this is meant to provide some information both for obviously the universities that we have with us today, but also, of course, for the European agencies that are, well, possibly about to become active. I know some of you already are. Some of you have conducted accreditation in Indonesia, to learn a bit more about this new policy, about how to, let's say, enter the Indonesian higher education sector also in this regard, and what to take into account, what to keep in mind when doing so. And you will hear more about this from Pak Chan. And for the universities, really the presentation from Dr. Achim is mostly on what does it mean to be in the ENQA? What does it mean to be listed in the ENQA? So now, Achim, please, I would like to hand over to you for the first keynote of the day on well, the European Quality Assurance Register and the European Standards and Guidelines for Quality Assurance. Achim, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. I just
all right. Spotlight on you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen in Indonesia. Good morning, colleagues here in Europe. I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this workshop to give an overview about, sorry, this is the wrong presentation, just a second. Just a second.
Though the ACAF is, of course, also of tremendous importance to our work.
Just a second.
Should I share for you, Achim? I have your slides here if you like. All right, there it is.
There it is. Thanks a lot, and sorry for this. Yes, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to this workshop to give an overview about external quality assurance in the European higher education area, and about the question what it means that agencies in Europe are on the register. And I'd like to also thank the organizers for giving me 20 minutes to do this. Let me start by some basics. Quality assurance in the European higher education area has been developing as one pillar of the European higher education area, together with the qualifications framework and recognition. It makes a significant contribution to reaching some of the aims of the European higher education area, which is having a more transparent system within this area of 48 countries and 48 higher education systems, and to foster mobility of the students. The milestones I would like to highlight particularly two. In 2005, the standards and guidelines for quality assurance in the European higher education area were adopted by the ministers of the participating countries in the Bologna process. And these, since then, form the basis for quality assurance in Europe. By the way, whenever I say Europe, I don't talk about the 27 EU countries, but the 48 countries of the wider European higher education area. A second milestone was the foundation of the European Quality Assurance Register, ENQA, in 2008. And also I might highlight one more milestone. In 2009, quality assurance became an item of the Bologna stocktaking, which is an exercise conducted in preparation of the ministerial conferences, which now take place every third year. And I will come back to this and explain why this is important. Let me explain a little bit the quality assurance infrastructure in the European higher education area and focus firstly on the European standards and guidelines, the ESG. This is what I was supposed to do. The standards and the guidelines comprise three chapters. Standards and guidelines for internal quality assurance, for external quality assurance, and for quality assurance agencies. They provide every actor in the field, which is the universities, the teachers, the students, the agencies, the ministries, and so on, with a common framework for quality assurance at all levels. Everybody who is involved in quality assurance nowadays works with standards and guidelines. What is very important to highlight is that the standards and guidelines focus on teaching and learning. They are not covering all the activities of the higher education institutions. It's only teaching and learning, and obviously the learning environment and relevant links to research. A second thing which I would like to highlight is that the standards and guidelines apply to quality assurance of all higher education offered in the European higher education area, and only in the European higher education area, and regardless of the mode of study. This means online programs, face-to-face programs, cross-border delivery of programs within the European higher education area. So these are two very important foci of the standards and guidelines. Now a bit more into detail. As I mentioned, there are three parts, and those of you who are familiar with the ASEAN quality assurance framework will recognize three quadrants of the ACAF. The ESG don't contain a quadrant or a chapter on the qualifications framework. That's outside the standards and guidelines. But the three chapters or the standards might look familiar to those who work with ACAF. The first part on the internal quality assurance is more or less the basis of quality assurance in Europe. The universities are required to have formalized policy which address the most important features of a high quality provision of education, and they are obviously required to take into account the key Bologna commitments, which are not so important for the universities in Indonesia, obviously. And another very important principle is the involvement of stakeholders in the design and in the conduct of internal quality assurance. External quality assurance, which might be more relevant for you, starts with the first standard, which is the consideration of internal quality assurance. This is a feature of the standards and guidelines, which is very important. You cannot separate part 1 from part 2, and you cannot separate part 2 from part 3 of the standards and guidelines. So one core feature of external quality assurance in the European higher education area is that the internal quality assurance, according to part 1, is considered in the design of external quality assurance processes and in the conduct of external quality assurance processes. Apart from this, it is not really surprising what the standards on external quality assurance are about. They are about the design of the methodologies. They address peer review, which is at the core of external quality assurance. They address the criteria, and what I would like to highlight, they address reporting, which is one very important feature of external quality assurance in Europe. The outcomes of a review is to be published in a report. Very briefly about external quality assurance. And now the third part, the quality assurance agencies. Again, as already mentioned, standard 1 starts with the requirement to to apply the second part of the standards and guidelines in the reviews. What I would like to highlight is the standard number 4, which requires the agencies to work on thematic analysis, meaning using all the relevant information they gather in all the they collect in all the reviews, and analyze them in order to support their own work, in order to support the universities and other stakeholders in enhancing provision and in enhancing policies. Apart from this, part 3 is very much about the professional conduct of the agencies. They need proper structure. They need to be independent, and so on. So also in this case, if you compare this to ACAF, it is not really a surprise. Second part of the QA infrastructure are the actors, and this is of course relevant for you. First of all, I would like to mention ENQA, which is the association of all the quality assurance agencies. It is a membership organization and the recognized representative of the agencies, with currently 55 members. There are more organizations that collect agencies. but ENQA is the politically recognized representative. Then EQUA, this is very, very important for you. Obviously, the European Register of Quality Assurance. This is not an association of the agencies. This is a list. Currently, 49 agencies are on this list, and all the agencies that comply with the standards and guidelines can apply to the register. Which means the other way around, every agency that is on the register is certified to comply with the standards and guidelines. Other relevant actors are the key stakeholders, which is ESU, the European Students' Union, EUA, the University Association, and Russia, the Association of other higher education in institutions. They form together with ENQA the E4, which is a continuous collaboration to support and to develop quality assurance further. And then certainly the Bologna follow-up group, which is the operational arm of the ministerial meetings of the European higher education area. Here, every decision about in the field of quality assurance, the adoption of the standards and guidelines, and so on, they are working as the political arm in quality assurance. So to say, I would like to come to focus on the agencies and on the reviews of agencies and on the listing on the red register. Every quality assurance agencies in Europe who wants to be on the register or who wants to be an ENQA member needs a successful review against the standards and guidelines. This is a precondition. So the universities can be assured that every EQA listed member has undergone a successful review against the standards and guidelines, meaning they are applying the standards and guidelines in a high quality and in a professional way in their home country, and when they travel abroad with their reviews within the European higher education area. It turned out that such a positive review result, or the full membership of ENQA and the inclusion on the register, is very decisive for the reputation and the recognition of agency. This has developed over time. In many countries in the European higher education area, being on the register, being on EQA is a precondition for the possibility to operate in the country. So these reviews are really very important for the agencies, but they are even more important because of the system which I mentioned just two minutes ago, that the agencies with part 3 of the standards and guidelines are required to apply part 2 of the standards and guidelines, and part 2 links to part 1. These agency reviews are now referred to as external reviews of the whole national quality assurance system. And this put even more emphasis on the relevance of these reviews, which means on the other side that they are that these agency reviews and the decision of ENQA and ENQA are very sound processes, because they are very relevant for the agencies, for the universities, for the students and teachers, and for the public authorities. This was briefly on the infrastructure, and now the state of play, the situation to today. I think it is fair to say that the standards and the guidelines are quite successful in so far as they reached one of their original aim, meaning not to be too prescriptive. Because one of the key features of quality assurance, internal and in particular external quality assurance, is a broad variety of approaches and methodologies which nevertheless all comply with the standards and guidelines. This means that agencies either focus on the program level or on the institutional level, or they focus on the quality management system, or they focus on all of these. A second question is whether an agency with the review focus only on teaching and learning, or on all activities of the universities. So there's a great variety of approaches to external quality assurance, and most of the agencies apply more than just one methodology, but all of these processes are in compliance with the standards and guidelines. What is also very important is that that it is very unlikely to expect a unified quality assurance system despite compliance with the standards and guidelines, because the national agendas play an important role in the design of national quality assurance systems, meaning the national legal frameworks, the political agendas, and also the traditions in higher education. But nevertheless, this great variety, which is to be considered a strength of quality assurance in Europe, does not mean that there are doubts about compliance with the standards and guidelines. On the contrary, it is a strength that these very diverse approaches all comply with the standards and guidelines. Let me finish by addressing one question, which is which I am asked quite frequently. What does it mean that an agency from Europe travels abroad? When I was director of the Austrian agency, I received this question many times, and it is important to understand what it means in legal terms. This is what I've been asked frequently. The agencies, especially when they are public authorities, are required to apply certain methodologies within their home country, within their constituency. And they are, and all of them are required to apply the standards and guidelines within the European higher education area. When they travel abroad, outside their home country, or even outside the European higher education area, most of them apply specific methodologies which have to be agreed with the university. This might either be they apply the national regulation in the home country of the university, or they apply a a specific methodology which the agency always uses when they operate abroad, or they apply an individually designed methodology. And this means that that it is always a specific offer to be agreed on between the agency and the university. And in most cases, the outcomes of these reviews don't have any legal effect in the home country of the agency or in the European higher education area. This means there is no automatic recognition of the qualifications or whatsoever. This is important to understand, that there is no automatic legal effect. This needs to be discussed in every single case with the agency. This was a very quick run through external quality assurance in the European higher education area. And I would like to thank everybody, and I do hope that we are all going to have an interesting workshop today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Achim. I know it's always a challenge to put decades of higher education reform and quality assurance into 20 minutes. I thought it would be useful to have an overview for the universities, so to know what they get when seeking accreditation from ENQA agencies. So I probably would now call on Professor Chan Basarudin to add the Indonesian context specifically, because obviously this is the one the agencies would be operating within, also within the legal framework that is set upon them by, we heard it before from Pak Aris, the ministry, but also, of course, in the playing field that is outlined by BANPT as the national agency. So, Pak Chan, screen is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sebastian. Ladies and gentlemen, Prof. Aris, Thomas, and Achim, I'm really pleased to meet all of you in this afternoon here in Jakarta, but morning in Europe, in this very important workshop or seminar talking about the international accreditation, which is now becoming one of the spotlight policy within the Ministry of Education and Culture. Much of my presentation contents will be more relevant for our colleagues from Europe, especially those representing the accreditation agencies that may one day will be accrediting programs in Indonesia. For our friend from Indonesia, of course, toward the end of my presentation, I would like to highlight also what will be the expectation from us on this accreditation, international accreditation policy. I will start with a very brief overview of Indonesian higher education system. Currently, we have a quite sizable number of higher education institutions in Indonesia, totaling up to 4,670. And out of these number, only 2,783 already accredited by BANPT in terms of institution. And inside those institutions, there are around 28,000 study programs. The study program here are very much similar to maybe courses in Europe, where the student can apply and take a degree out of that program. And again, out of those 28,000, only up to 24,000 now already accredited. In total, we have around 6 million students enrolled in this institution. And in terms of faculties, you can easily tell that we are still in shortage, totaling around 300,000 faculty members. And of course, there is a balance between the female and male faculties. Now, there are three major issues as far as the higher education institution or higher education system in Indonesia. The first one being the quality and relevance itself, which are very, relevant to our discussion today, that we are trying to promote and improve this issue on quality and relevance. In addition to that, we still have problem or issues on access and equity. The participation rate or the gross enrollment rate now is around 36%, which is considerably lower compared to our neighboring countries in ASEAN. Another issue is about the management and governance. I will come back to this issue later when we talk about the institution level of accreditation. Now, this is the portrait of accreditation status for both institutions and program as of today, December 9, 2020. We in Indonesia provide not only the status being accredited or not accredited, but for those meeting the standard, not only be given the accredited status, but also we provide some grade from the highest one, we call it A or excellent, and then B is very good, something like that, and C is the lowest, simply accredited, is called it good. And in terms of types of institution, we have 5 types of institution. We have academy, which is very small, focusing on vocational training only. And then we have polytechnics, also focusing on vocational degree, although in Indonesia, vocational degree can lead up to applied doctoral degree. And of course, if you look at the number of institutions, majority of our higher education institutions having the form of colleges. In Indonesia, we call it sekolah tinggi, school of higher learning, something like that. Or again, this specialized institution normally offer only 1 or 2 discipline of knowledge. And only a small proportion of them are public. So Indonesian higher education system providers are largely dominated by private sector. Very much similar picture for the program level. And I will explain later for the program level accreditation. Currently in Indonesia, there are 2 agencies operating. Of course, BANPT, my agency, is still doing accreditation for the program as well as the institution level. But in addition to that, we have already got one discipline-based accreditation agency, which is for medical study, medical-related programs, which is, we call it LAM PTKAS. Now, let's talk about the quality assurance system for higher education in Indonesia. Unlike in other part of the world, especially Europe or North America, the quality assurance issues is considered to be quite new in Indonesia. I remember back then, around early 90s, the Ministry of Education and Culture at that time issued what they call the new paradigm of education. That was then the issue on quality assurance start being promoted. But not until 2003, when the law or the Education Act officially stipulate on the issue of quality assurance. But then the Higher Education Law 2012 is the one who actually put in place the legal, clear and explicit legal basis for higher education quality assurance system. Now, if we look at the element of the system, it constitutes three major items. The first one, it's about the internal quality assurance system, which has to be put in place in every single higher education institution in Indonesia. It is becoming mandatory since 2015 with the issuance of one of the ministerial decree or regulation at that time. And later on, BANPT, or my agency, put this internal quality assurance system as one of the prerequisite or the precondition for accreditation, meaning that you will not be accredited if you don't have that function of internal quality assurance system working. The external quality assurance system or accreditation in Indonesia also is still very much new. The BANPT itself, I mean, my agency was established in 1994, and the accreditation process started years after that, around 1995. So the regulation or the higher education law stipulated that the accreditation is mandatory for institution as well as program level of study program. Now, for the institution level accreditation, it has to be done by BANPT, which is the National Accreditation Agency for Higher Education. And for the program level accreditation, it should be done or will be done by the discipline-based agency, we call it LAM, Lembaga Akreditasi Mandiri, which can be established by the private entity as well as by the government. Currently, we have 5 or 6 discipline-based agencies, but only one already operating now. Now, Prof. Aris Junaidi in the opening remark already mentioned that especially for the program level accreditation, those already accredited by BANPT or LAM can seek accreditation from recognized international accreditation agencies. Recognized here means it's listed under the ministry approval decree or decision. So the decision is made by the Ministry of Education and Culture. Only those recognized by the ministry will be automatically recognized also by internal or by the domestic agency like BANPT or LAM. Of course, before LAM is established, BANPT is still responsible to do the accreditation for the program level. The third element in our quality assurance system, we call it the national standard and the database of higher education. Prof. Aris also mentioned earlier that the national database of higher education is mandatory for every higher education provider. They have to submit the data to the national database some of the data will be required for example, issuing the diploma or the certificate, and even to get approval or accreditation status from the agency. I will talk a bit later about the national standard. Now, the national standard for education is issued by the ministry. Of course, we do have what we call the National Board for the Education Standard. So this board will submit the concept or the substance, and this will be later on issued or formally recognized by minister to become, they call it the national standard for higher education. It is a set of a minimum service standard. So for us, those who are meeting the national standard means they can legally operate as institution, higher education institution provider or program that can enroll students and issue degree or diploma. But those who are not meeting such minimum standard, meaning they will not be accredited. The national standard itself covers three major missions of education, that is teaching, research, and services. Each of this dimension or area cover 8 standards for each. It's very much systemic type of approach. They have standard for the input part, for the process part, and for the output parts of that. And any higher education provider in Indonesia shall comply to the national standard. Otherwise, they will not be licensed or eligible for offering degree. Now, the internal quality assurance. As I said before, that each institution, higher education institution in Indonesia, shall put in place or establish its own standard. Now, this local standard should surpass or exceed the national standard. So it cannot be lower than the national standard, but it has to exceed that national standard. At least they are the same. So when we, for example, BANPT are doing the accreditation, we will look at not only the national standard, but also the standard set by individual institution, which is under this requirement should exceed the national standard. Now, the internal quality assurance process, which is basically PDCA, but in Indonesia we call it PPAPP, is kind of elaboration of the PDCA, developed by individual institution to meet and exceed his or its own standard. So the process itself should clear enough to systematically uplifting the quality to meet and beyond the set standard of each individual institution. Of course, the eventual goal of this internal quality assurance is to instill the culture of quality within each institution itself. Now, to be perfectly honest, what we found so far, most of this internal quality assurance system is still externally driven. Even if we read one of the report from the study supported by UShare, they mentioned that the internal quality assurance system in Indonesia, in higher education institution in Indonesia, is still very much window dressing kind of approach. Okay, now the national accreditation system. The national accreditation system, as stipulated in the Higher Education Act, will be established or set forth by the National Accreditation Agency for Higher Education, which is BANPT. So we have issued this national accreditation system back in 2017, our first national accreditation system document, although the accreditation already actually operating since mid-1990s, but this formal document of national accreditation system is still quite new to us. There are, I think, three major elements inside this document. The first one talk about the principles of accreditation, and also it's set the criteria. So we don't here in Indonesia use a standard, because standard is something issued by the ministry. So the agency will issue what we call the criteria. Of course, this criteria will have to be developed based on the national standard of higher education. And the third element in the system is about the process and procedure for making or for implementing the accreditation process. So the element is developed or was developed based on some quality assurance framework, including our regional framework, ACAF, which was mentioned by Ahim in his presentation, which hopefully, I mean, there will be some common principles shared by ESG also. Now, these are the 9 criteria currently used by BANPT and all accreditation agencies in Indonesia when we are doing the accreditation. So I think when we look at this standard, they are very much similar to criteria or standard used by agencies in many parts of the world. The first one, we talk about the strategic direction of the institution or the unit operating or offering the degree or the program. And also the second, and then the second part will be the management, governance, and collaboration. We check about that, quality on that aspect. And then of course, the third is student, and the fourth is faculties and staff. The fifth is financial and physical resources. And the sixth is student learning. Now, I recall that when Ahim explained about the ESG, the centrality of program level accreditation will, of course, to be geared toward student learning. But in our case, we include also the dimension of research and community services. And of course, at the institution level, these 3 main missions will be assessed equally balanced. But for the program level accreditation, the main focus will be more on student learning, not so much about research and community services. And of course, the 9th element will be the outputs and outcomes of this institution or the program for the program level accreditation. Now, this new instrument is actually, or this criteria is actually a slight revision of our previous criteria, which was developed in around early 2000 or 2008, something like that, where our previous criteria is paid too much focus on input and process, not so much about the output and outcomes. So now this new criteria give a balance, so between output outcomes as well as the input and process. The accreditation process itself in Indonesia consists of course, three major elements. The first one, we do assessment, not only on quantitative data, but also based on the self-assessment report submitted by the university or higher education institutions. And the assessment method comprises the desk assessment and on-site assessment or site visit. I think that's very much similar to what's going on outside Indonesia. Based on that, we will make decision, and after the decision being made, our responsibility also to do monitoring and evaluation. Now, I would like to say a bit about the new policy explained by Prof. Aris about the automatic extension. So actually, the mechanism is like this. So BNPT or the accreditation agency should monitor and evaluate the institution holding the status of accredited. And then toward the end of the validity of the accreditation certificate, they will have to make a decision whether the quality still met, the quality standard is still met or not. If they're still okay, then they will extend for the next period of accreditation period. But after some rigorous monitoring and evaluation. So it is not, it doesn't mean that automatically mean every 5 years will be, just being extended, but under this monitoring and evaluation process. The instrument, of course, the second element of our accreditation process is very important. The instrument will be developed by individual agency, but it has to be based on the criteria. And the criteria, as I said before, will have to be developed based on the national standard. So we want to make sure that the national higher education standard is met. And of course, the instrument is stipulated in our national accreditation system has to be outcome-oriented instrument, not focusing on input and process only. And we also stipulate that the process should be supported by sufficient use of technology. Now in BNPT, we use SAPTO now, which has been running since 2017. Now, I want to talk a bit about assessor. Unlike the requirement from ASG, in Indonesia, the assessor panel does not include students, but we would very much like to have, I mean, we see the merit as well as the, the value of having a student in the panel. But for the time being, we are not quite ready for that. Last year, we started for institution accreditation, inviting students as observer, but somehow it didn't work as expected. So our assessors, mostly university professor. Even professional, we hardly, or even now we don't use professional in terms of those who are working outside university to become assessors. Finally, since our colleagues from various agencies will be presenting later on, we would like very much hearing from you this at least 4 major items. The accreditation process that conducted by international agency is expected to drive continuous quality improvement. So getting the status, giving the label, it is not our main goal, but the Ministry of Education aim to promote the quality. And and toward quality culture. And the second one, we want that by having the accreditation from the international agency, we expect that our program will meet the global quality standard and procedure, and including, of course, after we experience this COVID-19 pandemic, possible adaptation to the new normal later on. The third expectation is the agencies to undertake assessment in Indonesia. We expect they explicitly explain or mention that their process is based on a recognized and proven quality assurance frameworks. Of course, 11 agencies will be presenting today and tomorrow are all ENQA registered. So we know all of them are using ESG, at least is one of the reference. And the fourth item, we expect also there will be a collaboration between those agencies, not necessarily with my agency, but also with the LAM or the Lembaga Akreditasi Mandiri relevant to the field being assessed. I think that's all I would like to say, Sebastian, and thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Pak Chan. Obviously, I noticed that you went a bit over time, but I did not want to interrupt you because I think it is really, really important that we have this clarified. So thank you very much for this comprehensive overview of the Indonesian quality assurance system, which obviously is important for all international agencies to know. I just want to double check now. So because now we will go into the agency presentations, the core, so to say, of our agenda for today. I was asked that there was a slight change in our schedule, so that QAA informed me that they would have to go first because they have some time constraints. So the colleagues from the United Kingdom, maybe I would call on you first, and then we move on to IAAR from Kazakhstan. I hope this is okay with you. So overall today we will hear from 5 agencies from Kazakhstan, Russia, Germany, and the United Kingdom. And then tomorrow, at the second day of our workshop, you will be able to meet agencies from Croatia, Germany, France, and Lithuania, and get to know them a bit closer, how accreditation works with them, and what the conditions, standard, etc. are. Colleagues from QAA, could you give a brief indication? Is this okay with you? Can you go first?
Yes, that's fantastic.
Okay, very good.
It's possible it's about my diary rather than my colleagues. And what I would say is that my colleagues are going to stay in the call. It's just that at some point, I have to leave for a meeting with the Prime Minister's Higher Education Advisor. And so, as you gather, there's a lot going on in the UK. I mean, thank you, Sebastian, and colleagues from DAAD for inviting me. Inviting QA to be part of this workshop, and also to colleagues from the Ministry of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia, to Chan and colleagues from Ban PT. This is a fantastic event. And of course, all of my friends actually from ENQA and ECA registered agencies. We are a family who collaborate and support each other and share practice. And so it's great to see so many colleagues this morning. We in QA are very proud of a close partnership with the Indonesian sector, and I commend the ministers and educational bodies represented here for your demonstrated commitment to quality, particularly through the Merdeka Belajar vision and the Campus Merdeka policies, and through the Directorate General of Higher Education's roadmap to international accreditation for study programs. higher education is more globally connected than ever before. We see new and evolving partnerships between Indonesia and the UK and many other countries that are here today. That's why a shared understanding of the principles of good quality assurance is so important to facilitate cooperation and build trust. In this presentation, I will look at QA's role within international accreditation and touch on the work we do in the UK so you can know a bit more about us. We are the UK's independent expert higher education quality body. We have over 20 years of experience of programme, subject and institutional review of UK and international higher education. We were the first agency ever to have been judged to be fully compliant with all European standards and guidelines. We've been through 3 successful ENQA reviews. We're one of only 7 agencies worldwide judged to be fully aligned with ENQA's guidelines of good practice. And our international experience includes over 45 country-based reviews of UK provision through transnational education and institutional accreditation. And it's really interesting, Chan, because in our approach to TNE review, we do it in partnership with the host country agency, building trust and respect. International accreditation is a real opportunity to develop stronger partnerships. There's already a close connection between the higher education sector in Indonesia and the UK. And through this forum, I wanted to highlight how we think this can be strengthened. Strengthening and diversifying links with Indonesia is a priority for the UK higher education sector. And I discussed this recently with the government's international education champion, Sir Steve Smith. The UK is Indonesia's 5th most frequent research partner. We see around 3,000 Indonesian students studying in the UK each year, and we're the 4th most popular destination globally for Indonesian students, the most popular in Europe. There has been a significant growth in international scholarships for Indonesian students in the UK, both from UK initiatives such as Chevening and from Indonesian ones such as the Endowment Fund for Education, LPDP, has played an important role in this and will enable further mobility for postgraduates. Around 50 UK universities deliver transnational education in Indonesia, many of them in partnership with Indonesian universities. The numbers of students studying towards UK qualifications in Indonesia is rising. This is an opportune time then for Indonesia to explore international accreditation and stronger links with any of the bodies that are on this call today and tomorrow. At QA, we are very proud of our close collaborations in the region. We have a long-standing relationship with Professor Chan Basarudin and colleagues at BAN-PT, and we welcomed them to our headquarters in Gloucester. And we are currently in the process of extending and renewing our 2017 Memorandum of Understanding. We were proud to have BAN-PT at our International Partners Forum earlier this year to discuss common approaches to the shared challenge of COVID-19. QA has observer status on the Asia-Pacific Quality Network, and I was pleased to recently address the 12th APQN International Higher Education Conference in Macau 2 weeks ago, and there were some great presentations from Indonesian colleagues during the conference. And we're also a member of the Cross-Border Quality Assurance Network, launched in December 2016 under the Asia-Europe Meetings of Ministers of Education, aimed at building cooperation for stakeholders of cross-border higher education quality assurance in Asia and Europe. I'm really pleased today that a proposal to you today is supported by our local Member of Parliament, who's the trade envoy to Indonesia from our Prime Minister and the ASEAN Economic Area. Richard is also chair of the Indonesia All-Party Parliamentary Group, which exists to promote interests and understanding of Indonesia in the UK and develop partnerships and contacts with parliamentarians in Indonesia. We are keen to strengthen our partnerships, working with you in institutions as you educate the next generation of Indonesian leaders and innovators. Our approach to international accreditation is developed from our experience with partners and partnerships across borders. In the UK, we are trusted and recognised by the governments, funders and regulators in all 4 nations of the UK, the only body recognised to assess UK universities. Internationally, we have close relationships and links with many partner quality agencies, a full member of ENQA and listed on EQA. Specifically in the ASEAN region, we have worked alongside our partners in ENQA, DAAD and the British Council actively contributing to the SHARE project for ASEAN higher education by providing expert engagement training and advice. We've also recently delivered in 2019 a review of all UK provision in Malaysia jointly with ENQA, and the reports and analysis were published earlier this year. We've recently delivered online professional development for the Office for National Education Standards and Quality Assessment in the Kingdom of Thailand. In Vietnam, we worked in partnership with Cardiff Metropolitan University and the National Economics University to deliver a project on fostering a culture of quality, supported by the British Council. And we're working closely with colleagues in Myanmar to support the reform of HE systems and infrastructure. These relations help to deepen reciprocal understanding and trust in different quality assurance systems. This is advantageous for international accreditation work, but also what we seek to do in QA is to work in partnership in the cultural context of your own country to develop and support you in your institutions. So what is our international quality review? It's been specially developed to provide institutions outside of the UK with an independent peer review leading to institutional accreditation by QA. When we designed IQR, it was deliberately designed to be an international review method, not a UK one. We would not expect to impose UK standards on others, which is why we use the European standards and guidelines as our framework. And that's sensitive to the diversity of nations, and careful team design means we're subject to and sensitive to national context. In the last 3 years, we've undertaken IQRs in China, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait and India, and currently have 10 institutional level IQRs at various stages across the globe, mainly in the Middle East and the Greater China region. How will it drive excellence in your institution? IQR is specifically designed to analyse your approach to quality assurance, identify gaps and good practice, and raise your own capability, working with you to raise the quality of your institution. In our experience as an international accreditor, we have found that IQR provides trust and confidence for students and international partners because we challenge existing quality assurance processes and benchmark them against the ESG of the European higher education area, which Achim so cleverly and brilliantly explained earlier. One of the things we've done in preparing for today is we're the body that manages the frameworks for higher education qualifications in the UK. The UK frameworks have been mapped to the European qualification frameworks, which in turn align with those of the ISCED and the frameworks in Indonesia as indicated on this table. This alignment across these frameworks will support our analysis of quality policies and procedures in Indonesia as part of international quality review. So what is our process? IQR, as I said earlier, is based on independent peer review. This is achieved through a phased approach of 5 stages and can take between 8 to 12 months. The application stage is the first part that involves submitting an application providing evidence of your eligibility for review. The second stage is scoping. This is where we conduct a virtual or face-to-face visit to your institution to gather information and answer any questions. It measures performance against governance, the use of external reference points, internal quality monitoring, external accreditation and staffing. It provides a short report and enables both you and us to decide whether to proceed to the full review process. The third stage of IQR is the review itself. This is the opportunity for your institution to demonstrate how it meets each of the 10 European standards and guidelines. You prepare a self-evaluation document and supporting evidence. The review team conducts a desk-based analysis of the evidence submitted and then visits your institution to test the evidence. The review visit will include a short tour of facilities and a series of meetings, typically with senior staff, teaching staff, support staff, employers, and current and past students and other stakeholders. The review team will then agree whether they believe you meet the standards and guidelines and why. They also make recommendations for improvement and identify good practice. The fourth stage is that an independent accreditation panel meets regularly to review provisional IQR reports and assess the suitability of your institution for accreditation. Upon a successful IQR, you'll be awarded the QA accreditation badge. This demonstrates publicly that your quality assurance processes are effective and comparable with international best practice. Our accreditation is for 5 years and subject to a mid-cycle review. And that forms stage 5, the mid-cycle review. It takes place 2 to 3 years after a successful review. It's normally a desk-based study. Your institution will be asked to provide evidence that it is addressing any recommendations and other findings from the IQR review, and a QA review manager will evaluate your response. And one of the things I would say is that the way we've designed IQR is so flexible that it can be used for a large comprehensive university across the whole of the university's provision, through to a monotechnic which specialises in particular areas, and down to programme or subject level if that's required. When accreditation is awarded, QA will share the international accreditation badge with your institution and a certificate of accreditation. So what do we think the benefits are of undertaking IQR? So this is not just what QA said, this is what institutions have told us. The benefits that is brought is they have demonstrated effective quality assurance measured against international standards. It's enhanced their global position. Indeed, some have reported it's increased the numbers of international students. It's driving improvement and excellence and the journey towards excellence in institutions. And it helps in strengthening international partnerships, because you've seen to look outside your own country. So, of course, wherever with these things, there's a cost, isn't there? And everyone wants to know what the cost is. And these slides will be shared with everyone. So it shows a table for cost for the whole of an IQR process across the whole of an institution. And what we do, though, is, of course, we scope, and depending on the scale and the need of numbers of assessors or reviewers or experts, then that goes up or down. This is why we show there is a range, because complexity. We don't have a flat fee. We don't charge more than we would need to. So I would say this: why QA and why QA accreditation? I think it means that you are officially accredited by QA, who are world recognised as a credible and good and robust body, and able to use IQR accreditation badge on your website and marketing materials, which shows you are meeting international standards. You can look to assure stakeholders of your high quality. You can embed and enhance improvements, approve your national, regional and global standing. Ruth, colleagues, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. Thanks to my good friends in Kazakhstan for allowing me to go first. I hadn't expected to be first. I thought maybe I'd be further down the line, and your fantastic chairmanship, Sebastian, in running this session. Always happy to take any questions, either now or later, depending on the agenda. So back to you, Sebastian.
Thank you very much, Douglas. Excellent timekeeping, right on time. Indeed, it is a great pleasure to have QAA with us today, same as all the other friends from Europe. There are questions coming in. I'll sort them while we talk. So probably first of all, before we move on to our friends from Kazakhstan, and this is something maybe all of the agencies can answer in the presentation, to just map it out really clearly. First of all, we had a question from a university whether all these the accreditation programs can be conducted online, especially because I mean, we're still living in a pandemic world, sadly though. So we have to take into account that international travel might not be possible for some time. And second, like what programs or disciplines can you cover in your accreditation? So probably Douglas, to you first, is international accreditation possibly online? And second of all, does QAA have a program focus or discipline focus, or do you cover all disciplines, programs alike?
Sure. So first of all, I think all of my colleagues who are on the call have adapted to deliver processes online. I think many of us suspended in the immediate response to the pandemic. You know, we stopped for a few months, but it became clear that you just couldn't carry on like that. So yeah, we have undertaken reviews in the UK and internationally by virtual means. Not all are yet completed, but I know that we've got, for example, draft reports. Some really positive features have come out of this that colleagues are reporting to us. So, for example, you can actually reach a broader range of stakeholders through video conferencing. So, for example, employers or graduates or students who are maybe based on multiple campuses. If you think of a large institution with multiple campuses, instead of students traveling to a physical site, so all of those things work well. Colleagues have developed things like virtual tours of the campus, where someone has gone around with a camera and demonstrated the facilities. I think that the pandemic and the response of agencies will lead to a fundamental transformation of the way we begin to do the business. I used an example yesterday in a meeting with ENQA. When we had a meeting with our last external review of QA, we had a student who had to travel 1,000 miles round trip for a 45-minute meeting, but actually you could have it by video. So you could take you could do two things. You can take a lot of cost out, and also you can lower the carbon footprint of the travel of panels. But I think ultimately there is a benefit of at least part of a review of there being a site visit, so that you can get to meet people. And I think that will come back in time. But what we're beginning to think about as we evolve our processes is front loading as much as we can to be done virtually to save on cost and time in preparation for the institution. And in terms of where QA is, in terms of what we do, I mean, we've largely concentrated on institutional level, and some of that's been monotechnics, but we are capable of adapting. What we would do, one of the approaches we would take, and we've got access to over 1,000 peer reviewers, is that depending on the programs, we would look to work with the appropriate professional body in the UK. One thing is we don't seek to duplicate the work of others. We have 160 professional accrediting bodies, the General Medical Council, the Nursing Midwifery Council, the Engineering Council, and we would draw on their expertise to partner with us, because it's fundamental in our values. When we conduct an accreditation review or any sort of activity, training or development, we always want to leave the institution we work with stronger than we came in before. So bringing the right people with the right expertise to suit.
Thank you very much, Douglas. I think that's quite clear and concise. So there are other questions coming in, but please be informed that we will have a more comprehensive Q&A at the end. So I would also, in the interest of time, now probably move on to our next panelist, our friends from Kazakhstan. And just to be clear, Douglas, QAA colleagues will stay on the call, right? So that they can, okay, so QAA colleagues will answer other questions also at the end in our comprehensive Q&A. To all the Indonesian universities, please put your questions in the Q&A box. We are collecting them. They will be moderated, and I will make sure that all of them will be, or most of them, as many as I can, will be answered after all the agencies have presented for today. So, Douglas,
I'll stay till at least 10:15 and try and answer some online if I can.
Or that, yes, please. Also, if the agencies see there are some questions specifically addressed to them, feel free to use the chat function. Try to interact with some universities directly if you like. Anyway, Douglas, thank you very much for being with us today. I know you have a busy schedule, and also I would probably now call on Dr. Timur from our colleagues in Kazakhstan. Are you with us?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, great. I'll put the spotlight on you. Wait, yes, here you are. So, colleagues from Kazakhstan, Dr. Timur, screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues and participants of the workshop. First of all, on behalf of our General Director and all staff members, let me convey our sincere greetings and warm wishes from snowy Kazakhstan. I would like to thank organizing committee for this opportunity to be part of this international workshop and present to your attention our experience in the field of quality assurance of higher education. Let me share my presentation with you. Just one moment, please. Can you see it?
Yeah, it's okay.
All visible, yes.
So there are a few key points I will be discussing in my presentation, which is a background of our agency, objective of offering an international accreditation, our previous experiences in this field, brief outline of our accreditation procedures, expenses and benefits for the higher education institutions. Now that you are aware of the overview, let's begin with the background of our agency. Independent Agency for Accreditation and Rating is a leading international agency in Central Asia, the Pacific region and European countries, which conducts cross-border accreditation, including institutional and programmatic, and rating research. Our agency was established in 2011. In the slide, you may observe our priorities, which is a commitment to a high-quality culture and international standards, monitoring and feedback system, creativity and innovations. Our strategic goals are development of a quality assurance system using the international best practices, conducting a ranking research, and significant concern of our agency is informing the public about the results of the quality assessment. If briefly to stop in our objective of offering an international accreditation in the Indonesian higher education institutions, I would say fundamentally it would be a promotion of a high quality of education by the means of international accreditation based on the standards and guidelines for quality assurance in European higher education area, ESG, and World Federation for Medical Education Standards. Now I would like to move on to the second part of presentation, which looks at the professional networking, which I suppose is essential for the activity of any quality assurance agency. Independent Agency for Accreditation and Rating is a full member of ENQA since 2016 and registered with ECAR from 2017. This confirms that our standards comply with ESG standards. Moreover, our agency was recognized by the World Federation for Medical Education in 2017 as the first and only organization in the region. This recognition gives us a right to conduct international accreditation of medical higher education institutions, which in its turn gives graduates an opportunity to receive the international certification of the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates, ECFMG, starting from 2023. I will discuss this in more details later. Likewise, our agency is a member of the APQN from 2015 and have been included in the register APQR in 2020, which is a Asia Pacific Quality Assurance Register. This is significant because the inclusion to the APQR serves as a reference to global stakeholders on trustworthy external quality assurance agencies in the Asia Pacific region. I'm also delighted to share with you our achievement in the field of international ranking. In 2020, our agency have successfully passed an IREC audit and was awarded the IREC approved seal of quality. All in all, our achievements in the cooperation with professional quality assurance networks allow us to conduct international accreditation in the Eurasian higher education area. I briefly mentioned about ACFMG and medical accreditation earlier, and let's look at it in more details now. In 2010, ACFMG determined that starting from 2023, physicians applying for ACFMG certification will be required to graduate from a medical school that has been appropriately accredited by an agency recognized by the WFME. As I told before, our agency was recognized by the WFME in 2017. Therefore, our agency accredited higher education institutions may qualify students for ACFMG international certification. More importantly, the qualifications obtained by graduates of accredited universities correspond to European qualifications and are recognized throughout the European higher education area. All these, in first place, are related with the recognition of diplomas and possibility to obtain a license to practice medicine abroad. In a slide, you may see basic requirements in various countries for physicians in order to obtain a license to practice medicine. If we elaborate further about the policy of ECFMG, as it was mentioned before, the requirement for accreditation of medical schools from 2023 was established by ECFMG in 2010 to stimulate international accreditation and improve the quality of medical education around the world. In our opinion, it is an effective mechanism for assessing the compliance with international standards of graduates of medical higher education institutions around the world. ACFMG certification is a standard for evaluating the qualifications of graduates of medical higher education institutions for admission to doctoral studies in the USA and Canada. And it is also one of the eligibility requirements for international medical graduates of the medical universities to take step 3 of the United States medical licensing examination and obtain a license to practice medicine in the United States and Canada. In my previous slides, I have demonstrated only some of the main quality assurance networks where our agency actively participates. As you can see, our agency has very wide range of activities in this direction. And apart from that, what I mentioned before, we're also involved to the work of following international quality assurance networks. Among them, ENQA, Accreditation, and ENQA, and also International Quality Group of CHIA from United States. Now we have covered the presentation part, and let's move to our previous experience and types of accreditation which we have in our agency. We can divide for 3 enlarged groups accreditation which we have, which is domestic accreditation, joint accreditation with a partnering agency, and cross-border accreditation. Here in the slide, you can see some statistics. We have already accredited nationally 168 educational organizations and 2,968 educational programs. We also have experience in joint accreditation with our colleagues from FIBA and ACUIN, and we have experience in cross-border accreditation. I will come to this a little bit later. And also within these enlarged groups of activities, we have subtypes of accreditation procedures. Of course, we have institutional accreditation, we have program accreditation, and also we have initial accreditation as institutional and program. And also we divide between medical institutional accreditation and medical program accreditation. And the same goes for cross-border accreditation. Our agency has conducted various types of accreditation in the Republic of Kazakhstan, the Russian Federation, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, Moldova, Armenia, and Romania. And of course, we are planning to extend our operational geography further, following the occurring demand from key stakeholders. All types of accreditation activities of our agency are predefined, conducted professionally, transparently, and consistently. This approach ensures that quality assessment processes are effective and efficient. Our agency is making sustained efforts to develop mutually beneficial cooperation with world's recognized quality assurance agencies in this field. To date, agreements on bilateral cooperation have been signed with more than 20 organizations. And some of our partners are present here today, and it is my pleasure to meet our colleagues here again. Based on its mission and strategic goals, our agency believes that the role of external experts is essential for achieving the ultimate goals of procedures related to the external quality assurance. At present, our agency have an experts base consisting of more than 4,000 reviewers from 35 countries around the world. And of course, for each type of accreditation described above, our agency has developed own standards and guidelines. The content of our standards for all types of accreditation is harmoniously integrated with the ASG and WFMA standards and takes into account the national context. Harmonization of the international and national context allows for our agency to contribute in enhancement of internal quality assurance processes in the higher education institutions and increased responsibility of universities for the quality of services provided. Now, let me just briefly mention our stages. Of course, because we work under the ASG, our stages of accreditation might be similar with other agencies, and it starts from the application. Then we have a stage of self-assessment and site visit, and also the decision-making with the publication of reports. And all these stages have its own terms, and usually it takes from 6 months to 12 months, one procedure of accreditation. Here, let me illustrate to you print screen from our web page, and this is how you can apply for accreditation. And if we speak about expenses and cost of international accreditation, our agency applies a flexible policy in relation to defining accreditation-related costs. The cost of procedure accrues from the actual expenses due to the review and analysis of the self-assessment report, travel expenses of Kazakhstani and foreign experts, salary of our staff members, communication services, administrative expenses, including holding accreditation council meeting and other consumable costs. In some countries, our agency participates in public procurements under the legislation of that country. Also, the expenses may vary from country to country and from institution to institution. Even so, I can say that approximately for the one program, it will cost about $10,000 to $12,000. And in the next slide, I would like briefly to mention what possibly may give the international accreditation of our agency. Of course, first of all, it is an international recognition, comparability and convertibility of qualifications, confirmation of the high quality of education, compliance with international standards, and expanding opportunities for international cooperation with best universities in the world. And let me share with you our vision on the impact of our accreditation for the development of higher education institutions. First of all, it's of course a development of academic mobility and training in foreign higher education institutions. Second, it's employment and increasing the competitiveness of graduates in the international labor market, increasing the attractiveness of the higher education institution and trust from stakeholders and society. And of course, it's very important to obtain objective information about the opportunities and development prospects, and also implementation of innovations in educational processes. And I would like just briefly to mention that along with the international accreditation, an international ranking plays a special role in ensuring the quality of education, which helps to increase competitiveness of higher education. And as I mentioned before, in 2020, our agency had a procedure of IREC, and our ranking system was recognized, and among there is only 4 organizations which has a approval seal from IREC, which is QS, World University Rankings, Shanghai Rankings, and ranking of our international ranking, which is called YAR Eurasian University Ranking. And of course, we may invite higher education institutions to take part in this ranking, international ranking. And in our website, you may find detailed information how to apply for this ranking. Dear colleagues, and thank you very much for your attention. And I would like to leave you with this, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Timur. Very interesting. I'm certainly also looking forward to hear more about your agency. We have questions coming in, though, to be fair, now some of them, by the way, thanks a lot to the QA colleagues also to answer the questions that were coming in on your agency. Pat-Chan, there is actually a question for you. I'm not sure if, I mean, you can choose to answer or not answer, but I think I would at least put this up here. So it says here, can a university and its study program get internationally accredited by different ENQA listed international agencies? So probably, I don't know, let's go for, I don't know, German or Kazakh accreditation first, and then maybe to QAA later on, possibly. Pat-Chan, maybe you can clarify a bit more on this.
Yeah, I think the way I read the question is the gentleman from UNSIA, I suppose from a chair, was asking whether it is limited only to these 11 agencies or other agencies outside of these 11. That's so the answer is, as stipulated in our ministerial keputusan or decree, every agency registered in ICAR will be recognized by the ministry. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pat-Chan. I really probably misunderstood the question then. Yeah, indeed, let me just emphasize this again. All agencies that are listed in the ECAR are eligible to award international accreditation in Indonesia. So all of the ones that are in this workshop today and also tomorrow, obviously, but also the others that are listed in ECAR. I mean, you can always check the ECAR website, which will be sent to all of you also. All right, so I have another question coming in from Dr. Timur. So I think I'll still take this one live, and then the others one maybe in the Q&A before moving on to our next agency. To Dr. Timur from Kazakhstan, does your agency, IAAR, have experience in accreditation procedures of veterinarian study programs? Do you want to answer this live or in the chat box, Dr. Timur?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Absolutely perfect, yeah.
Yeah, sure, I can answer this question. Yes, we have experience in accreditation of veterinary programs, but in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
Yes, we have experience.
Okay, great, short and sweet, thank you. All right, in order, in the interest of time, I would now move on to our next agency, which is from Russia, NCPA. So, dear colleagues from Russia, I saw you before already. I would ask you to share your presentation, introduce your agency. Thank you, I see you sharing already. And I'll put the video spotlight on you now.
Yeah.
So,
1 second, please.
Sure, no rush.
Yeah, Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly clear. Thank you.
Nice. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, we are very, very glad to see you all at this workshop. But first of all, I'd like to know that this year is the 70th anniversary of establishing diplomatic relationship between Indonesia and Russia. Let me introduce myself. I'm Galina Motova, Deputy Director of the National Center for Public Accreditation, and my colleague, Dr. Oksana Matveyeva, Deputy Head of the Accreditation Department. And now let me present our agency. The National Center for Public Accreditation was founded 11 years ago, but many members of our agency have 25 years experience in accreditation. NCPA carries out accreditation of educational programs in line with the European Standards and Guidelines for Quality Assurance, ESG. Now NCPA is officially listed in the European Quality Assurance Register and in the Asia Pacific Quality Register. NCPA also is a full member of the European Association for Quality Assurance in Higher Education, ENQA, the Central and Eastern European Networks, ENQA, the International Network for Quality Assurance, ENQA here, the Asia Pacific Quality Network, APQN, and it is also important to know NCPA is a full member of the Observatory on Academic Ranking and Excellence, IREC. And now, let me pass the floor to my colleague.
Dear colleagues, hello. I would like to present the technology of the National Center for Public Accreditation and would like to specify that Russia takes a really unique geographical position being in Europe and Asia. And also due to the fact that Galina Motova is the Vice President of APQN, NCPA is closely familiar with the specifics of the region, CHIPA principles and Asia Pacific quality label. Besides, as Galina has mentioned before, NCPA is the member of European Quality Assurance Register and Asia Pacific Quality Register. And our center has beneficial experience in accrediting universities in the Asia Pacific region. And one of our priorities is promoting academic mobility of students, because Russian universities are really interested in cooperation with the universities from the Asia Pacific region, accredited according to the mutually agreed standards. I would like to say that we have been on the educational market for over 10 years. And more than 1,000 of experts took part in the evaluation procedures, and more than 1,000 of study programs have been accredited. So with more than 300 international experts from 25 countries, and including China, India, and Taiwan. I would also want to highlight that it is very important when composing the expert group to attract both international and domestic experts, because local experts know the specifics of the region, the national policy, and the national standard requirements. The next slide shows, we would like to say that important trend for NCPA is carrying out joint accreditation as the possibility for the exchange of experience, development of innovative approaches, and enhancement. Joint accreditation is held by Russian and foreign accreditation agency and involves unified and agreed accreditation procedure. It is very important that the accreditation decision is made independently by two boards, and the university receives, in this case, two certificates of two countries. NCPA accumulated valuable experience of joint accreditation with the Higher Education Evaluation Center of the Ministry of Education, China, the Higher Education Evaluation and Accreditation Council of Taiwan, and accreditation agencies of Belgium and Germany. Cooperation with HEC was really productive and beneficial for NCPA as the development of cross-border activities. So it was really beneficial for both countries. And in 5 years, 5 leading Chinese universities from Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Harbin were evaluated and got recognition in 2 countries. Speaking about NCP technology and accreditation procedure, I would like to say that our standards are aligned with European standards, but also can also cover national standards requirements. So it includes 3 main stages. This is the preparation to the site visit, including preparation of the self-evaluation report and the process of selection and training of experts. The next stage is site visit, meeting with the key stakeholders. And the third stage is the decision and follow-up procedures. During the evaluation procedure, NCPA provides methodological and organizational support. So NCPA can carry out a series of webinars covering the questions and the process for the preparation for the self-evaluation and site visit on the request from the university. So I would like to stress that if the university needs to be consulted and needs the support, we can organize such a webinar distantly and help the university. The next slide shows the example of the site visit program. And as you can see, the key meetings with the stakeholders are organized usually within 3 or 4 days. So the site visit program includes the meetings with the rector of the university, with the heads of the structural units, teachers, students, graduates, and employers. One of the most important follow-up procedures is that the National Center for Public Accreditation enters information on study program into the CAR database. So this information becomes open and accessible for the World Academic Society because at present the CAR is the only database of accredited study programs and universities in the world. I would like to stress that NCPA uses the standards which are on the one hand aligned with European standards, but also can cover national standards. And here I would like to point out that the main standards, they cover policy and quality assurance procedures, the content of the study program, evaluation of students. Of course, one of the most important standards is the teacher staff and the resources, as well as the review of the study program. The National Center for Public Accreditation carries out cluster accreditation, which means that we can evaluate several related study programs, and the cost varies from $7,000 up to $10,000 of US, depending on the number of programs, excluding travel expenses and subsistence allowance. And also we can evaluate related study programs of 2 universities, but in case if they are located to each other, closely located to each other, and in this case we can have 1 expert group, and thus the university really can save on transport costs. So thank you for your attention, and I would like to say that we really want to be partners in QA sphere, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. Very interesting, I must say. I'm really glad that you're here today. Please, to all our guests and participants, post your questions in the Q&A box. We will try to answer all of them as best as we can, obviously. There are some questions coming in, but I think I will postpone them to the comprehensive Q&A. Also that we have the chance to give our next two agencies enough time also to present themselves. So we're coming a bit closer to home, my home at least, Germany. So the next two agencies are from Germany. First of all, it is ZEVA, CEFA, as we would pronounce it in German. So this is Miss Gruber. So Miss Gruber, if you could share your presentation, I will put the spotlight on you. Yes, here you are. Welcome to the call, and looking forward to your presentation. I cannot hear you yet. I think, is it just me? I don't hear any sound. Please try again. No, indeed, I cannot hear you. Sorry, unfortunately. Okay, all right. Maybe you can disconnect your microphone again and reconnect it. All right. I still cannot hear, unfortunately. Should I call on ASEAN first, maybe, and then? Okay, all right. So okay, then apologies for the technical problems. CEFA will come after ASEAN. So then I would like to welcome my colleague, Dr. Iring Wasser from ASEAN. ASEAN is an agency that some of you might know already because it has been active in Indonesia, among some others. Some 60 programs accredited, if I'm not mistaken, from 30 universities, but I let Dr. Iring explain a bit more on this. So Iring, please, screen is yours. Feel free to share your presentation. I will put the spotlight on you, and here you are.
So, selamat datang. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm happy to see that Indonesian higher education representatives are, even when it's late, they stick to the guns and still listen after these many presentations. I first of all would like to thank a couple of organizations and persons, obviously the German Academic Exchange Council, with whom ASEAN entertains a cooperation agreement since the year 2007. And the DAT and ASEAN have been active in many world regions, also like in Southeast Asia in the DS project. I especially would like to thank Professor Bazarudin of BAN-PT, because he's has been so many years leader of the agency and is doing a tremendous job. Just think of the numbers with I recall 20,000 programs, more than 1,000 institutions accredited. That's a really Herculean task. Also considering the fact, obviously, that Indonesia is the 4th biggest education system in the world. So that is quite a challenge. I would like to thank, obviously, the Ministry of Education and Culture, Professor Junaidi, who's really a visionary, and I congratulate the ministry for really moving things on. If I now share my presentation, let me see whether that works. Can that be seen? Is there yes?
Not yet. Not yet.
I have to share my screen, obviously. That's
yes. Well, does it work? Otherwise, I can share it if there's an issue.
I'm just trying to find out. Let me see whether I managed to share the screen. Where is now the sharing function? Or can you put it on?
Okay, sure. No worries. Let me try.
Where is the sharing function?
Can you see it at the bottom?
Can I move it myself, or I cannot?
You should be able to. We enabled sharing for all of you, so.
Okay, so everybody can see now the slides, I hope.
Unfortunately not. Sorry, Iring. There seems to be an issue.
I simply have to. There's this function of sharing the screen.
Yes, at the bottom.
Yeah, that's okay.
Here
we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Okay. Let's see.
Better?
Yes, now it works. Now we can see it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so brief overview of what I'm planning to do in the next 12 minutes. Quick presentation of ASEAN, our past and ongoing activities in Indonesia, and how to prepare. Let's see. Here you can see where ASEAN is located. Quite a distance from Indonesia, but we already received a number of delegations from Indonesia. Obviously, you are very welcome to visit us. It's easily reachable. We are situated in the city of Düsseldorf. There's a big international airport, and Düsseldorf is quite a livable city, so you're very welcome also to visit us. ASEAN is quite an international player. We have been active in the past years in altogether 43 countries with a focus on Asia. We have been sometimes together with the DAD, sometimes together with other partners like the Asian development countries, very active in building quality assurance and higher education systems around the globe, especially in Mongolia, Russia, Kazakhstan, China has been like the focus of our attention. Here you can see the various parts of our portfolio, and all this, of course, can be seen on our website. So this is where ASEAN is active. We are in the program accreditation field. Obviously, there is like a separate part, institutional accreditation. And I recall that Professor Bazarudin pointed to the fact that in Indonesia, BAN-BT is also looking at research and at community service. That is also part of our scheme. We call it the International ASEAN Maturity Model, which is quite new, and it's also like implicitly has like a ranking in various dimensions. So I think that's something which is interesting. There is a separate commission within ASEAN who's looking at the certification of continuous education at university level, and of course workshops and consultancy. The important part of the message is that Indonesian universities can combine the various elements. So there's, for example, the possibility to combine an institutional accreditation with program level accreditation. I might also say that we also offer, in combination with the TÜV, the ISO certification if warranted. ASEAN is quite unique in its setup in a sense that on the left side you see you have 4 membership groups. One is the, so to speak, the German higher education community represented by the presidents of universities and on the level of professors and deans conferences. On the right side of the screen, you will see that ASEAN is under its umbrella, encompassing pretty much all the important scientific technical associations. For example, the German Physical Society, the German Chemical Society, the German Association of Engineers, and so forth. And number 4 important group are the ASEAN group of employers. I'm very proud to say that we also have an economic council where international companies are consulting us and giving their input when it comes to accreditation criteria and procedures. And you see here a number of the companies which are supporting ASEAN. What this shows you is that ASEAN is very much combining in its processes and criteria the view of academia on the one side, but also the employer side. Though those which educate students and those who employ students are intimately linked within ASEAN's procedures and criteria. Here you see also that is quite a unique feature internationally. We have altogether 14 technical committees. And when Professor Bazarudin was talking about accepted qualification frameworks, all of these so-called technical committees have developed in the past 20 years internationally recognized qualification frameworks, not only on the level of the ESG, but below that on the level of different disciplines. And there, as you can see, I highlighted some of the new technical committees, which is, for example, the one in medicine, nursing. There's a technical committee on chemistry and pharmacy. There's the technical committee, which is now doing engineering, management, and economics, and obviously all the natural sciences, the engineering, the informatics fields. And that, in a way, brings me to the claim that ASIN is the only disciplinary agency covering globally program accreditation in all STEM disciplines based on internationally agreed learning outcomes. Here you will see, as all the other partners and colleagues, ASIN is for 15 years a member of all important international quality assurance networks, also APQN in Asia and so forth. Also, like Douglas was mentioning, the alignment of GGP and ENQA, that's ASIN has also done. But also important, apart from this, so to speak, general networks which we are having, ASIN has founded in the year 2011 a separate network encompassing no longer on the national level, but on the continental level, all important field-specific, disciplinary-oriented quality assurance higher education networks. And here, this network is called the European Alliance of Professional Accreditation, EASPA. I'm the Secretary General of this network. And here you can see, for example, I don't have a lighter, but there's the members are for the engineering field in Europe, the European Network for Accreditation of Engineering Education. The second in line would be the European Quality Assurance Network in Informatics Education, and so forth. The last member to join is the Alliance of Medical Schools in Europe. And after creating this in the year 2011 in the headquarters of ASIN, we quickly moved on to have a cooperation agreement with the American ASPA, the Association of Professional Accreditation, with around 70 agencies. And my personal goal, and that's why I'm glad that the ministry is present and also Professor Bazarudin, I've been trying now for a couple of years to jumpstart an Asian ASPA, an Asian Alliance of Professional Accreditation in different fields. I'm glad to hear that in Indonesia, you have now the first 5 or 6 examples of field-specific quality assurance agencies, and I would be happy if we were to move on to supplement these cooperation agreements on the level of the disciplines. Obviously, all these European and international networks are having mutual recognition agreement based on intended and achieved learning outcomes. ASIN is offering global conferences once a year. Many Indonesian colleagues have come to see us in the past years. The last was in Dresden, the city of Dresden. And I'm already announcing that in cooperation with the Université de Sorbonne in Paris, we are offering our spring or summer international conference in Paris, if the pandemic allows, in Paris, and all of you are obviously invited. ASIN has been part 2 internationally operating for many years. With respect to Indonesia and the Southeast Asian part, it's important to mention the DS project, which was mentioned by Sebastian, which is in a way was the attempt to in a way compare the European and Asian approaches. I myself was the trainer for 11 Asian quality assurance agencies. We reformed the criteria of the Asian University Network in the process. And it was also a pleasure to work together with BAN-BT in modernizing criteria and getting together. Here you see the already completed accreditation procedures in Indonesia. I think the first one to start was the institute in Bandung, where we accredited a number of programs. And here you see that around 60 programs have been completed in the past couple of years. Here you also will see an example of how the ASIN certificates look like. Here you see the certificate of ASIN and also like our international certificates. I'm going to say 2 words about this in a moment. Just like I'm interrupted by a phone call. Here you will see that's important information. These are around 22 universities in Indonesia with 155 programs, which are currently in the process of doing the ASIN accreditation preparing for the ASEAN accreditation visit, very important because, of course, given the number of these institutions and programs, we together with our Indonesian partners have to plan carefully of how to combine, how to cluster, and how to economize the whole procedure, because that's a major endeavor. We're doing a lot of capacity building workshops in Indonesia with different ministries, obviously with the Ministry of Education, which hosted an important meeting in Bali in August of 2019. We organized meetings with the Ministry of Religion. For the group of Islamic universities, we actually also are in the process of cooperating with the Ministry of Commerce. We are currently, that might also be important information for BAN-PT, we are in the process on this very day actually, we are in a way training Indonesian professors to become also international experts. And it's a very intensive 3-day training, and we are hoping, obviously, that we, with the assistance of Indonesian professors, Indonesian representatives of economy, we will together actually implement all these many procedures. Preparing for an ASEAN accreditation is very easy. Here is, so to speak, the steps. I don't have to repeat this because there's a lot of information available. It's not so different from other agencies because all the procedures are somehow aligned. It's important to note in a way that Indonesian universities are, at least as concerns ASEAN, are well prepared, because all of them have already undergone the BAN-PT accreditation. And in that sense, there is the information already on the table, and then in a way you simply have to adapt to like the international accreditation procedure. Challenging is, Professor Bazarudin was mentioning that, to clearly apply the PDCA cycle, to really also look at the achieved learning outcomes. That's important. We will ask you to fill out a accreditation request form. We will ask you to make a proposal to cluster the programs, because it's not a good idea to submit an individual program for accreditation. That's much more expensive than if you actually decide to actually look at cluster accreditations. You see the average price. Here's the form. You also have to make a choice when you cooperate with ASEAN, which label you would like to acquire. ASEAN is also different from other agencies in not only providing its own national German quality assurance seal, the ASEAN accredited program, or the institutional seal, or the module seal, but we are authorized to deliver altogether 5 international, partly global quality assurance seal for disciplines. So there's the European Bachelor and European Master of Informatics. There's the EURACE system, the European Accredited Engineer. There is the AMSE seal, which is actually using also, like our colleagues from Kazakhstan, the WFME, the World Federation of Medical Education Standards. We have the authorization by the European Chemistry Thematic Network in Europe, and the Global Food Science and Food Technology Network. And this can be actually applied to for no additional cost, practically no additional cost. You will get the German ASEAN quality label plus the international label. We will assist you in preparing. I was preparing for accreditation. I was mentioning the ASEAN workshops. I'm also pointing to the fact that my staff and I myself will review your self-assessment reports and give you a feedback before everything is actually being sent to the experts. We will assemble teams which will always include Indonesian professors, experts, students. So students will always be a part of that. I think for us, ASEAN, as we are accrediting in so many countries internationally, we have a keen respect for the Indonesian culture. And I personally have been visiting multiple times, and I'm very impressed by the national doctrine of Pancasila, which in a way is everything which is encompassed in Indonesian culture is actually put in this important notion. We will take around 6 months to complete an accreditation procedure. The outcomes of the more than 5,000 ASEAN accreditations are listed in the DQR database. Here you can see, you can actually check for the Indonesian inputs into the state database. before this, I no longer I'm going to comment, but there would be it would be needed to have another, let's say, 20 minutes to actually explain also to Indonesian representatives that, as Professor Basnaurim was mentioning, there is much more to accreditation than simply sending experts, and it's more also than improving the quality of universities, which is always at the core. But here you can see altogether 8 functions, additional functions of international accreditation, which is important. I would like to finish by actually, let me see whether that's possible, quickly going to the homepage now. Can you see the homepage of ASIN? Is that seen? Here you will see our homepage. Here you will see the different items, program accreditation, and so forth. And if you want to learn anything, for example, I can't inform you about everything. You just click on Learn More. Here you will see our criteria for bachelor, master, and PhD programs. You will see the application form. You will see the procedures, the seals, the criteria. And all of this, in a way, is, I think, self-explaining. But as always, I myself and my colleagues are very willing to assist you in any way we can to have a very smooth and efficient and transparent procedure. So thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you, Iring. Very interesting, very extensive. Obviously, there's a lot of information about Indonesia also, and the previous experience of ASEAN in the country. Okay. Well, last but not least, let's try again for ZEVA. So, Ms. Gruber, let's give it another try. I hope the microphone issue was solved, but I'm hearing something. So
can you hear me now?
Yes, very great.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
All right.
But you can't see me now?
Nope, video is off.
Stop the video is off. Okay. 1 second.
All right. Anyway, in the meantime, while the colleague is preparing, please, everybody, don't forget to check the question and answers box. Put in your questions to the agencies, also to the agencies. Please have a look at the Q&A box. Some of the questions are very specific to one agency. You can answer them in the Q&A box. I will pick some that are more general for our 50 minutes Q&A later on. But please, questions that are directed to specific agencies, answer them in the Q&A box. Thank you. Ms. Gruber, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I still cannot see myself, and the system is telling me that the host has sort of deactivated my camera.
Is that so?
I cannot activate it myself.
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, we can see your presentation, so do feel free
so I'll just move swiftly along, just not to take too much of the colleagues' time. Anyway, thank you very much again for inviting us and for giving us a chance to introduce our agency to you. Can you still hear me? Yeah, because I'm having sort of background noise here. Okay.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, perfect, good. My name is Anja Grobe. I'm in charge of all international affairs at CEFA Hannover, which stands for Central Evaluation and Accreditation Agency. Perhaps starting with some quick facts and figures about us, about what we do. We are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, so we've been around for quite a while, since the mid-1990s. We were one of the first agencies to be founded in Germany and one of the first to be licensed for program accreditation. Our central mission is, of course, external quality assurance in higher education, especially in teaching and learning. We have been a founding member of ENQA, and we've also been registered in the EQA for many years now without interruption. Currently, our head office in Hanover counts about 20 staff in total, the majority of whom are project managers for external assessment procedures. And the biggest asset of our agency are, of course, our external experts. At present, we have a pool of about 1,500 persons from Germany and from abroad who work for us on a regular basis as external experts. Also, we are members of other corporations, umbrella organizations, as for example, ENQA and the European Consortium for Accreditation. And we're also regular guest lecturers for DAAD, actually, in the context of training seminars in Germany and abroad, directed at higher education institutions. Sorry, this is not working. Sorry, I'm having a problem here with my presentation because this is not moving on. Sorry, one second there now, please.
Sure. No rush.
Okay. I'll just see what I can do here. Okay. Can you still see the presentation? No.
It's gone now. It's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone now. Okay, I'll get back to it now. Okay. Yeah, okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I move swiftly along. In the international realm, our activities and services include accreditation of study programs and also institutional accreditation. Also, we have some other services that we offer, but the core of our international business is really accreditation at program level and institutional level. We've got two regional focus areas that have developed over the past few years. One is Eastern Europe, especially Russia and Ukraine. The other one is the Arab world, where we have worked in countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the Emirates, and also in the Kurdish region of Iraq. And one of our strategic goals for the next couple of years is a further regional expansion to other parts of the world, because we're working very successfully in international accreditation, and we would like to extend our activities and carry the ideas of the Bologna process to other parts of the world. And that's exactly the reason why I'm presenting this to you today. This, of course, will include a further increase in staff in our international department. At present, we're having 2 core staff plus additional backup staff, but we're planning a significant extension there in the near future. Currently, we have completed about 25 program accreditation procedures and 2 institutional accreditation procedures outside of Germany, plus some additional reviews and projects. You can find information on all our procedures, including the accreditation reports, on our website. We've provided you with the link here if you're interested in the details. Moving swiftly along to the procedures itself, or the procedure itself. If you're interested in obtaining the CEFA quality label, what are the prerequisites? There are not that many, actually. To be eligible for this quality label, you should, of course, be a state-recognized institution in your country and should be legally entitled to award academic degrees. And you should also commit yourselves to some basic principles of the Bologna process and the European higher education area, which is, of course, outcome orientation of study programs, student-centered learning, and credit transfer and mobility. And also, of course, as it was said before several times, quality assurance should be on top of your agenda too. So you should have appropriate tools and procedures in place for internal quality assurance, especially in teaching and learning. And your study programs should be equivalent in level and content to study programs offered in the European higher education area, which doesn't mean that you have to award the same type of degrees, but there should be a clear equivalence. Our assessment frameworks are very closely aligned with the ESG. I will explain that to you in more detail shortly. And of course, our assessment procedures are always based on the peer review principle. So we assemble expert panels consisting of professors in higher education and also of professionals from outside academia. And we always have one student member on the panel as a general rule. Yeah, what is our idea of quality that stands behind this? We always follow, and that's in line with the ESG2, a fitness for purpose approach. So our central question in international accreditation is always whether a university provides apt conditions for students to achieve their intended learning outcomes. So we measure a study program or an institution against their own goals and self-set standards, but also against the international standards of the subject discipline and the scientific community. That's always an expectation that universities have, that our experts provide them with input on whether their programs are in line and can live up to what is offered by similar universities in Europe or other parts of the world. And it goes without saying that all our procedures in the international realm are always conducted in English language, of course. There are two other basic ideas that we always follow in external assessment. They were mentioned by Achim Hoppach earlier on. These are the principles of autonomy and responsibility. We think that higher education institutions should always be held accountable for the quality of their study programs, but they should always have the greatest possible autonomy in designing their programs, designing their strategies, and their internal quality assurance. So the goal of our procedures is always to strengthen your internal quality assurance efforts through external quality assurance with a sensitivity to your particular context, national context, regional context, and the academic disciplines we're talking about. So each of our procedures always has two aspects and elements. There is the element of assessment, quality assurance, accountability, but just as importantly, we've got a big element of reflection, quality development, and enhancement integrated into this. So our experts will not just come to you to look for fault, but they are there to give you valuable input for the further development and continuous improvement of your study programs. That's what they are there for, and that's exactly the added benefit of international accreditation. A very quick look at the assessment frameworks. This is the one for program accreditation. As you can see, it is very, very closely aligned with the criteria of the ESG, starting with the intended learning outcomes of a program, which should be plausibly aligned with the curricula, with the teaching methods, with the methods of student assessment. And also we will take a look at the quality of the teaching faculty involved and the general infrastructure, resources, and the learning environment. And of course, we would also take a look at the quality assurance measures you're taking with regard to your programs. In institutional accreditation, the focus is rather on the quality assurance system as such. We have already learned that all higher education institutions in Indonesia need to have an internal quality assurance system. So we will take a closer look at that element, at the tools and the policies, the strategies and procedures that you have, and how you apply them to the study programs and to the general learning environment and teaching faculty. All our procedures follow the same basic principle as we have heard before from the colleagues of the other agencies. This is a multiple step procedure based on part 2 of the ESG, starting with a self-assessment report of the university, followed by a site visit at the university. This usually takes 2 to 3 days, at the university itself, when we have interviews with different stakeholder groups. We would, of course, be open for online site visits too, but preferably we would still rather come to you and have a face-to-face meeting based on our previous experience. So online site visits would be possible, but only as an emergency option. After completion of the site visit, the experts generate a written report, which includes affirmations of good practice and also recommendations for further development. And our central CEFA commission takes the final accreditation decision. Usually, as a general rule, we award a quality label for the duration of 6 years. Accreditation may be conditional. It may be tied to certain conditions or even preconditions, which have to be fulfilled within about a year, usually. And we are also happy to provide support in fulfilling these conditions, should they occur. The total duration of the procedure is about 18 months as a general rule on average. Sometimes it takes a bit longer from signature of the contract to the final decision, but on average it's 1.5 years. Throughout the procedure, we place a very high value at service orientation. So all our procedures are managed by 1 or 2 experienced project managers who provide guidance and advice to you throughout the entire process. We provide you with detailed manuals and templates for all our procedures. And we also offer introductory online workshops to prepare the university as best as possible for the procedure and its requirements. And of course, it's also an important task of ours to carefully train and prepare our experts for their tasks in external assessment. In summary, the following forms of assessment are possible. We can perform an accreditation of individual study programs or of a cluster of closely related programs. The size of the cluster may vary, but it should not exceed a maximum of about 10 closely related programs. We could also offer a parallel assessment of 2 clusters with 2 separate peer groups, but in 1 single site visit, so that would also be possible. And as an alternative to that, we can offer institutional accreditation. I should stress that this does not imply that all your study programs are automatically accredited too, but institutional accreditation may also be combined with the accreditation of selected study programs in one and the same procedure. So as you can see, we are fairly flexible when it comes to procedural design. Of course, we would also be open for collaboration with the colleagues in Indonesia, that is with the Indonesian agencies, if that is of any use and help and support. So we would also always be open for that. The costs depend very much on the size of the expert panel and the scope of the procedure. They are therefore subject to negotiation. To give you a rough idea, the accreditation of 1 study program involving a panel of 4 experts would cost around 20,000 euros, not including expenses for traveling and lodging. We are always ready to generate a quotation of costs for you within a few days. That is absolutely no problem. So if you're interested in learning more about us and about our services, please feel free to contact us at our office in Hanover, and we are also happy to arrange a video or telephone conference to discuss further details with you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot. A very interesting presentation. I was particularly impressed by the areas that CEFA is active in, the Kurdish area in Iraq. That is certainly something I was also not aware of. There were some more questions coming in. I would probably try to address them one by one. We still have a few minutes before it is time for the prayer, the afternoon prayers here, which would then also be, I think, the signal for closing this workshop, at least for today. So there are some questions I think I would start with ASEAN. So Iring, if you're still in the call, there is a comment on the fact that ASEAN is, or how ASEAN is using Panchasila, whether you consider this in your accreditation or whether this was more a comment that you made in a general remark, or is this something you take into account when you do accreditation? Iring, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, I already answered that also in writing. I'm simply saying I've now been in Indonesia, I think, for the past 10 years or 15 years. And what is absolutely amazing about this country of 200 million people and I don't know, 130 different ethnicities is that it has managed by their national doctrine to, in a way, make it possible that human beings are living peacefully together. And when ASEAN is visiting programs, we are impressed, we are observing that this doctrine is also infiltrating the relationship between professors and students in the way students are educated. So in that sense, I would say it's a principle which permeates also through to the education system. And that's very much, if anybody has ever been there, it's a very impressive thing to see also how close relationships are between Indonesian professors and their students. It's absolutely amazing, and that's something to be seen.
All right. Thank you, Iring, to provide a bit more clarification on that. There are some questions that do not directly, I would say, concern our agency partners here, but are rather on, I would say, the system and how, let's say, once a successful accreditation has been achieved from, let's say, an ENQA-listed agency, how it would then be recognized by the ministry. I'm not sure. Pak Aris, are you still with us now? Otherwise, we can answer this tomorrow, maybe, or in writing. Pak Aris?
Sebastian, can you restate again?
Hi, Pak Chan. So there is one question that, let me see, where was it? Yeah, on the fund, the accreditation fund, whether it is a competitive or a matching fund. I think that's pretty much the question. Would you have any information about that?
Well, it is a competitive fund. It's already published by the ministry. So universities are eligible to propose, to write up a proposal, but the selection of the proposal will be based on quality of the proposal. It's competitive.
All right, okay. Thank you, Pachan. Very clear. Okay, I see questions to Russia were answered already. Yeah, there are two more questions to CEFA. First of all, I'll summarize them into one. Whether CEFA accredits only education universities, I think not, but probably, yeah.
No, can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly clear.
Okay. No, sorry, I forgot to point this out during the presentation. I think we accredit across all subject disciplines and at all types of higher education institutions. So CEFA has no limits whatsoever when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah?
And there were some questions on the cost for each accreditation cycle, but I think this may be better answered directly or in writing. So I would recommend the university partners to get in touch with the agencies directly if you have questions on the cost, for example. I mean, the further details as far as they haven't been answered during the call. Okay, this is the Panchasila issue. We've discussed this. All right, so I had another one for Iring, I think, whether you provide technical assistance for study programs interested to get ASEAN accreditation. Maybe you can answer this in the chat box also, Iring, if possible. I don't see any more general issues that would concern, let's say, the overall process of international accreditation, or let's say more agencies. And thank you. Obviously, we've answered
Sebastian,
more than, yes?
Yeah, can I re-emphasize this one question? I think it's quite interesting. Is there any agency which is particularly focusing on vocational degree or education? That's one of the questions.
Right, thank you, thank you. Iring, please, go ahead. You're still on mute, Iring? Yes, you're on mute, yeah.
Thanks for the question. It's also, we were recently also contacted by an organization together also with the Ministry of, I think it's Commerce, which deals with the accreditation of the polytechnics in Indonesia. And we've now started pilot projects to actually look after the 12 polytechnics in Indonesia, and also seeing what combination of program accreditation, institutional accreditation is most suitable for that. So that's just ongoing, but perhaps like there's a chance to also talk to this in more detail, because the time is now too short to actually explain all the details.
Sure. All right. Are there any other agencies that would be open to accreditation of vocational degrees here in this call, and who would like to highlight that possibly? Otherwise, also, yes, NCPA, please.
Yes, dear colleagues, we also can carry out accreditation of vocational study programs, and also the university can include several related study programs.
All right, okay, so we have definitely two here. To the gentleman, I think, who asked the question, ASEAN and from Germany, and NCPA from Russia, are both also active in the field of vocational education and training. So
Sebastian,
yes, who is speaking?
Sebastian, hello. It's Stephanie from QAA.
Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, hi everybody. We are also active in that arena as long as it leads to a higher education award. We are active in vocational qualifications as well, so we'd be delighted to take up any discussions around that. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So yeah, you see that this is also covered. I mean, maybe to put this into context, the level of polytechnic, Pachan, correct me if I'm wrong, is obviously a part of the higher education sector as well, especially. So we're not talking about, let's say, technical schools like SMK or so on, but obviously polytechnics are also active and award higher education degrees, and not ordinary vet degrees. All right, so I don't see any new questions coming in. I think we've covered them all. So, and we're absolutely on time, if I may stress this. It is exactly 6 p.m. So that much for German timekeeping. Sorry, the joke, I had to make it. Yes, so I would close today's workshop then and express my sincere gratitude, first and foremost, of course, to our partner, the Indonesian Ministry of Education and Culture, the Directorate General for Higher Education specifically, great cooperation, but also, of course, to our speakers, Dr. Achim Hoppach, Professor Can Basarudin, to all the agencies that presented today. And of course, I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow's session, where we have, let's give you a brief look ahead, where we have agencies from Croatia, from Germany, we have ASHE, we have AHPGS, we have AQUIN from Germany tomorrow, we have HCRS from France, and we have ACAS from Germany, and last but not least, SKVC from Lithuania. So I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow's presentations and discussion, and I thank you all, and I want to stress this, we have almost 100% participation until the very end. This is rare. You know, usually workshops begin with 300 people, and then at the end we have 20. Today's attendance is absolutely extraordinary. So credit goes to the Indonesian universities present today. So thank you all. I would now formally close this call, this meeting, and see you all tomorrow. So have a good night, have a good, well, rest of the day in Europe, and see you again very soon. Goodbye. Selamat malam.
Good day, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Malam. Thank you.
Thank you all. See you. Bye-bye. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Aris. Good
Thank you, Pak
evening, Bu
Sebastian.
Retno.
Great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent.
Thank you, Bastian.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Selamat
Sama-sama.
sore.
Sampai besok.
Sampai besok. See you.
Ya.
Thank
See
you.
you tomorrow.
Have a nice
Bye.
evening.
Yes.
Thank you very much for invitation. See
Absolutely.
you.
How do you say das vidanya, right?
Das vidanya.
Goodbye.
Das vidanya.
Goodbye. Thank
See
you.
you tomorrow. See you
Goodbye.
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Iring, schönen Abend oder schönen weiteren Tag. Goodbye, everybody.
Auch vielen Dank, war sehr professionell gemanagt, die